I am Susan L. Allen, National President and CEO of the U.S. Pan-Asian American Chamber of Commerce. The best way to introduce today's program is to share with you what is said by Charlie Scharf, CEO of Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo has been an 18-year working partnership with us. It has been a long time. And Charlie said recently that this conference provides development and growth opportunities for Asian American and minority as well as diverse businesses. And it is an important part of a continued effort to support diverse business owners and to recover, to reopen, and restart in a shifting landscape after the last 15 months of pandemic climate. In addition to the $420 million of open for business funds that Wells Fargo has donated to the small business community, it is events like this that you are about to hear that will breathe life and energy to an anxious community ready to go back to work and succeed in the American economy. Joining us today is our two senior executives from Wells Fargo. They are experts in the Asian American and diverse community marketplace. I would like you to meet Joanna Zhong and Christopher Galang.
Thank you so much, Susan. Hello, everyone. I'm Joanna Zhong, Asian segment leader with Wells Fargo. I lead the Asian segment strategy to grow consumer and small business relationships with the Asian community. I'm very excited to be here today and appreciate the opportunity to be speaking with you and sharing insights into how small business owners can continue working to boost their businesses. And to share these insights, I would like to introduce my colleague, Chris Galang. Chris, I will turn this over to you for you to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Joanna. Thank you, Susan, and a virtual hello to everybody. As Joanna mentioned, my name is Chris Galang. I'm Senior Vice President with our Small Business Diverse Segments team here at Wells Fargo. And it's a pleasure to be here and be part of the conference. And thank you to USPAACC for this opportunity. As Susan mentioned, we're more than a year into the pandemic, and it's been heartbreaking to all of us to see the impact that it's had on businesses across the United States. But there's seemingly a light at the end of the tunnel. With vaccines rolling out, we're finally getting a glimpse of what a new normal might look like. And personally, I am very much looking forward to being able to celebrate with you all next year in person for the 2022 USPAACC conference. But as I think about what you all have gone through in the past year, there's just a couple of things that really stand out for me. First, business owners are just facing the challenges of the pandemic with resolve. Um, the grit and determination that you all are showing to keep your doors open, to keep your employees employed, to continue serving your customers is just really admirable. It also reminded me that while all small businesses are unique in their own way, you also all have shared challenges. And that's why the power of the network has just been so important over this last year. Just to see small business owners learning from each other has just been so powerful in this moment. And so today our presentation is going to be all about how Wells Fargo can share insights with you all and hopefully give you all some value and some tips to be able to take away to really continue your recovery in 2021 and set you up for brighter days ahead in 2022 and beyond. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. You know, when I get the opportunity to talk to small businesses about strategy, the first question that I'm often asked is, where do I start? And I will often respond by saying, well, what do you know? It should be no surprise to any of you that when it comes to business strategy, keeping your customer and that customer experience at the center of what you do is just it is essential. And so when you're looking at insights and when you're looking at where to start, focus on the insights that really tell you what the current customer experience is, but more importantly, what your customers' expectations are. Because if there's a gap between the current experience and your customers' expectations, that's where you should start with asking yourself, how can I close that gap? How can I make that better? And then also just in this space of insights, it's really just important to acknowledge the fact that as business owners, there are things you know, but there are also things that you don't know. And so you're here today, you're part of the conference because you guys want to learn. And of course, I applaud you for that. And as the pandemic continues to evolve, as the situation continues to evolve, just keeping in touch and up to date with what's going on from a regulatory perspective, your local guidance during the pandemic, keeping ahead of that is what's going to really set you up for success in this changing time.
This is great information, Chris. One quick question. Who can business owners go to for insights when they are just starting out or working on building their customer base?
Great question, Joanna. And I would say look to your network. So your network, of course, includes folks like your banker, your lawyer, your CPA, but it could also include just friends in related fields. One part of your network, if you guys are just starting out or have been in business for a number of years, one unlikely part of your network might be your competitors. I would encourage you guys to actually reach out to your competitors, and I think you would be surprised at their willingness to help in a lot of circumstances. I'll just share a true story. Actually, a few years ago, I started my own small business making men's backpacks, and I just remember one of the very first meetings that I had was with the CEO of a brand, men's backpack brand and manufacturer here in San Francisco. Um, and I was floored by how willing he was to help me and give me guidance. He spent 2 hours with me. He opened up his entire factory. We talked about manufacturing, marketing. He talked about what the process was for hiring his employees, his challenges. And it really just amazed me how willing he was to help someone else in his same field. But I think when you really think about it, sometimes running a business can feel very lonely. And so I think that's why most entrepreneurs, if not all, are just so willing to help other small business owners with the same challenges, even if you guys are in the same industry. Um, but actually, as we continue to talk about networks and connections, another benefit of a strong network is that you can use them to pressure test ideas. So whether you're introducing a new business model, introducing a new product, It's just really handy to be able to have folks to bounce a sounding board to test those ideas with. At the end of the day, your network with their feedback, they can actually save you money. They can actually make your rollout of a new program or strategy really efficient, the first step in really rolling out something that's successful. So again, use your networks as a sounding board. But one other benefit, I think, that's often sometimes overlooked is that your network is also potential customers. And so as you are testing your new products with them, another area to test with them is just your value proposition. Just remembering, right, that people buy value, they don't buy products. And so as you're testing out your new offerings or business model with your network, similarly, take some time to get feedback on your pitch, essentially with them. And so it's one of those things where with a network, I'm reminded of one of my favorite quotes. If you want to go quickly, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And so that really moves us to the next topic on our agenda today. And again, we touched on this briefly around business strategy. But if there's a lesson that the pandemic has shown us is how quickly everything can change, how quickly the business environment, our customers' experience and expectations, how quickly those can shift. So just think about your experiences in the pandemic and how quickly you just started expecting that businesses, for example, would have curbside pickup, or that your favorite restaurant was going to have more delivery options. And so, just as consumer sentiment can shift so quickly, businesses will need the businesses that do the best are the ones that are prepared for that pivot. And when it comes to pivoting, it's really important to remember, and it's often a misnomer to really think that every strategy needs to be groundbreaking, right? Every pivot is going to require some sort of revolutionary approach. Well, that's often true, and of course, something that we would encourage. It's also important that sometimes just look to the basics. That can create opportunities as well. And so, as you're thinking about marketing, your capital expenditures, new business offerings, again, something like curbside pickup or just more delivery options, just going back to the basics can sometimes yield really great results as well.
Thanks, Chris. Just returning to pivoting for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share some key signs that business owners should be aware of that signal a need to pivot, and what should they be looking out for?
Yeah, that's a great question, Joanna. And I'll say it again. When there is a gap between the customer's experience and their expectations, that's usually a good sign that it's time to pivot. Whether it's an extreme situation like a pandemic or just the more subtle changes and shifts in the marketplace, just keeping, of course, the needs and expectations of your customers at the center of your decisions is going to be really important. So I'll draw on another example. So just think about all the new normals that we've gotten accustomed to over the last year. For example, in cities across the United States, both businesses and consumers are really indicating that they want to keep all of the outdoor seating areas that have been built. So 18 months ago, just the idea and expectation of having outdoor seating was a luxury. But for the most part right now, right, especially if you're in a city like San Francisco, it's now a commodity. So the restaurants that really haven't already made that pivot to offer outdoor seating are finding themselves rushing to provide that to their customers. So again, there's a gap in that experience for the customer as well as their expectation, usually a good sign that it is time to pivot. And so actually, once you've chosen to pivot, one of the things that you'll obviously want to do is tell your customers about it. And so marketing, for a lot of business owners, myself included, marketing is not necessarily often an area of expertise. But now more than ever, just ensuring that your digital and online presence is optimized is just super important. Obviously, you guys know this already. So this is particularly true for communication, So once you've made the pivot, as these channels use these channels to communicate those, whether it's just as simple as your hours have changed or your hours have gone back to normal. These are channels that are going to be important to keep updated and optimized. And again, draw from your own personal experiences when it comes to marketing in the social and online space. How many times have you all checked out a business's Yelp page before considering using their services? Just another note on the marketing front. It's oftentimes considered or focus, and rightfully so in a lot of cases, that marketing and your online presence really needs to cater to new customers or prospects. But just remember that, again, your existing customers are also going to that space to hear from you. So as you're thinking about your marketing plans, as you're thinking about the ways to communicate in those channels, just keeping a mindful eye that you're talking to both new customers as well as existing customers is going to be important, because the tone and message is likely going to be slightly different. Where in one you're trying to get that new relationship, and in the other you're trying to grow and deepen that relationship. And again, this is also just another opportunity. Again, if marketing is not your specialty necessarily, another opportunity to tap your network, find professionals in this space to get advice from. So the next area kind of we'll talk about is around capital consideration. So I know you guys are here, right? Because one of the questions that's always top of mind for you all is access to capital. And so one area, whether it's offered by the local or federal government or even private institutions, there are funds, there are loans, there are grant programs that really are designed to help support small businesses weather more difficult times like a pandemic, or just ongoing programs as well that support small businesses. It's important that you're all proactive in searching for these opportunities. I'll give yet another example. You all are likely familiar with PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, but I can't tell you how many small business customers have told me that they wish they knew about that program earlier to take advantage of it. And part of that as a business owner, again, is just investing that time to ensure that you're researching those programs and are up to date with any new offerings. Again, whether it is the federal government, your state governments, city governments, or private firms.
Great. I think that we all agree that access to capital is very important. So as business owners make these considerations, where can they go to find out what other aid programs and resources may still be available to them?
Yeah, great question, Joanna. I would say to start with reputable websites like the Small Business Administration or SBA.gov. There you'll often find information about federal aid programs like the Restaurant Revitalization Fund or the Shuttered Ventures Grant Program, as well as ongoing aid like the EIDL program or the Economic Injury Disaster Loans. So if you haven't already, bookmark SBA.gov. They're a great resource to learn more about federal aid programs. I would also encourage you guys to check out local and city resources. If you haven't already done so, probably not in the last 18 months, take a trip down to your city hall or just visit their website. Often programs that are just special for your city or local area are promoted there as well. But I would be very remiss in not mentioning Wells Fargo's Small Business Resource Center. So if you're still wondering where to start after all this information, after our conversation today, if you're still wondering where to start, I do encourage you guys to check out our Small Business Resource Center. We have tons of great content around cash flow, marketing, evaluating capital investments. And so if you're looking for a place to start or just for some inspiration, our Small Business Resource Center would be a great resource for you all to really start charting and continuing your path forward. So in closing, I just kind of want to sum up the three things that we talked about today. Hopefully you all got some value from today's discussion. But one, start by asking yourself if there's a gap between your customer's current experience and their expectations. If there is a gap, what can you do to close that? That's really just a great place to start if you're considering a pivot. Two, invest time in building and nurturing your networks. And of course, as we talked about, don't be shy about reaching out to competitors. And three, take advantage of free resources, again, like Wells Fargo Small Business Resource Center, and invest time in researching federal, state, and local aid programs, as well as private institutions that your business could qualify for. So with that, I just want to thank you all for your time today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. If you'd like to learn more about anything that we discussed today, our doors here at Wells Fargo are open. I'd love to invite you all and invite you to visit and make an appointment with one of our bankers and visit one of our branches. So again, with that, thank you, Susan. Thank you to the USPAACC family for hosting this event. And to everyone else in the audience, please enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris, for sharing this great insights. I hope that you all find it helpful. And lastly, I know that tomorrow is the third day of the conference. At 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, we'll start with Congresswoman Yang Kim from California and Subhash Iyer, Chief Counsel, Federal Transit Administration, U.S. Department of Transportation, and Chief Procurement Officers Forum Panel 2. You don't want to miss them. So see you tomorrow.